Welcome back everyone to Redwood RC. We're back in the shop today with the IR60 build. One thing I haven't been happy with about this build is the Treal shocks. They haven't been the best performers on the Bronco, even with all of the brass on that truck. They're just, with the springs on, they're way too stiff. For the Bronco, for this truck, too stiff. So I've been running them without springs, which is decent. I flipped them upside down. I don't know how much of a difference that really makes in the grand scheme of things, but I'm sure it's a little bit of a benefit. But I'm still not happy with how it performs. I really like how it sits. It's nice and low at full compression. Keep that center of gravity nice and low. However, it essentially has no suspension at that point. I mean, when you come up to a rock, when you come down off a ledge or something, you have no suspension. It just hits hard and bounces. And that's probably not great. I also am not a fan of the red color. I don't think it matches with this build very well. It does flex out nice. I'm very happy with that. I have no problems with the articulation or the movement. I did fill them with a 30 weight low C shock oil. That seems to be working pretty well. So not a big deal overall, but I'm not real happy with how it sits and how it performs on the rocks. So to fix that problem, swung by Little Guy RC, picked up a couple of their 60 millimeter TRX4M shocks. I looked around for a long time trying to find a decent pair or decent set of shocks that would fulfill my needs, and these I think are gonna do it. I'm sure you can't really see much from over there though, so why don't we get you a little bit closer in. We'll take a look at these, a couple other visual things that I got, and then we'll fill them with some oil, we'll throw them on the truck, we'll take it out to the rocks and see how it performs. Okay, so what do we got in our little pile of parts here? Obviously, first up is the Little Guy billet 60 millimeter shocks for the TRX4M. Little Guy does not make a whole lot of parts for the TRX4M, but they do make these really cool little shocks. And from what I've read, they have some of the softer springs on the market. So I'm hoping with this setup, this truck will sit how I like it. Ideally, I'd like it to sit up a little bit higher than it is now. And then when we lower the body down over the frame a little bit more, we'll get the visual look that we're after along with the performance. So I'm hoping that this will sit just how I like it. They got a couple different sets of springs in here. We'll test those when we open it up. These are the gold anodized sort of look. They're not the 62 millimeters, they are the 60s. I think the 62s would probably be a little bit too long for this truck, but I do sort of like the faux reservoir with the Little Guy logo on the side. That's pretty slick. I'm a big fan of that. So that's the main performance upgrade that we got. Along with that, I went ahead and picked up a set of their 2.5 millimeter lug nuts. I didn't think about, these are not gonna work on this truck, unfortunately. The axle stub doesn't stick out far enough. Maybe I'll get some longer ones. Maybe I'll use these on the Bronco. Not really sure yet, but I do like them. They're pretty sweet. Sad I can't use them on this guy, but we'll figure that out at a later date. A couple of stickers, that's pretty cool. Picked up their big icon stickers. It's a 2-pack, I think. We got a red one and the gold one. That's going on the truck for sure. I also picked up a scale shop banner for the scale garage and the mini crawler course. That's gonna be pretty sweet to hang up in there once I get things in. Especially once I pick up a 3D printer, I can start printing some shop accessories, that sort of thing. That's gonna be really cool. And then the sticker pack. Got a whole bunch of stickers in here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with these. Ugh, gross. But these are cool. I'm down. Pretty awesome. Okay, so let's take a closer look at these 60 millimeter Little Guy shocks. Looks like we get some mounting hardware. I don't know, those still feel pretty stiff. Not sure which is the lighter spring? Let's find out. Okay, yeah, so the silver springs are much, much softer. The black springs are real stiff, real stiff. So that's a good sign. Oh yeah, that feels much better. That feels much better. I think this is gonna be perfect. Let's go ahead and get these all torn down. We'll get them filled up with our 30 weight low-C shock oil, same as the Treal shocks. And then we'll get the silver springs on, get them mounted on the truck. We'll go hit the rocks and see how this thing performs with some proper suspension. All right, we got this one greased up with our 1-Up blue O-ring grease. This stuff is gonna save our seals and prevent us from having any leaks, hopefully, in these little guy shocks. Let's go ahead and get it filled up with the 30 weight low-C oil. Same procedure as always. Oh, right about there. Okay, so that seems like that's gonna be the setup. Filled up just about all the way so we get that nice concave dish there at the top. Set the shock about halfway up and then install the cap. That's gonna give us a good amount of rebound just there at the bottom to keep it from sitting all the way down. But I think that's gonna be perfect. Let's go ahead and get the rest of these assembled, put them on the truck, replace those Treal shocks with no springs. We'll go hit the rocks and see how it performs. All right, so that last one was a bit of a pain. The first 3 went super easy. The last one, for some reason, kind of fought me a little bit. But they are all together now, relatively equal in terms of rebound and spring rate. I do like the look of these with the silver spring on there. I think that looks pretty cool. I think it's gonna look really cool on the truck. So why don't we get the truck torn down? We'll get these old Treal springless shocks off of here. One thing I really don't like about these is they tend to get stuck all the way up, so you have to kind of cycle them a couple of times. I'm noticing kind of a similar feel to these, so I don't know if that's going to improve or not, but I think it is going to improve the overall performance of this thing quite a bit. So why don't we get the wheels, tires off, we'll get the shocks off, replace them with the new little guys, and then we'll go out on the rocks. Hopefully it's not raining, and we will test this thing out and see how it does. Okay, so since we have it off, let's take a look at the Treal shock compared to the little guy shock. Now the biggest difference for me that I'm super excited about, you can see I've got these set up to suck down a little bit. What I'm really excited about is the little bit of extra travel I think that we're gonna get out of these. And these little guy shocks do have a little bit more travel. little guy, a little bit more travel than the Treal shocks, even with these spring cups on to retain the springs. So that's pretty exciting. We're gonna gain a little bit of travel and a little bit of performance at the same time. These have been pretty good. I'm not displeased with them. I just think they're not quite right for this setup. So we'll go ahead and tear this thing apart, get all 4 of these off, replace them with the little guy shocks, get our wheels and tires back on, and then we'll hit the trail. But I know you guys really don't want to watch this whole process over and over and over, so let's just hit it with the... And just like that, we're back. We did it. We got everything back together. I'm super happy with how everything looks, how it fits together, the quality of these parts. I did have to play around a little bit with my shock mounting points, relocated my rear strut tower here, and sort of relocated the front mounting point as well. I did move these up and forward quite a bit. These are in roughly the same position, and it sits just about how I want it now. Now it's got the battery in it, so we have full weight of the truck on these shocks, and it sits just about where I want it, and it does have still a little bit of suspension travel. So it's not just sitting directly on the frame or directly on the bottom of the shocks. It has a little bit of real suspension to it still, which is exactly what I wanted. And it sits roughly in the same place. Now, next step, when I do lower this body down over the frame a little bit more, it will sit even more how I want it. But the chassis and suspension setup is almost exactly what I want. Now this, I think, will give it a perfect amount of flex, a perfect amount of travel, and also a little bit more ability to absorb impacts as opposed to the Treal shocks without the springs. Speaking of the Treal shocks, here's the factory black stiffer springs from the little guy shocks, and here's the black stiffer, softer springs from the Treal shocks. And you can see the difference in length between the two. Now, when they are compressed to roughly the same length, they feel about the same in terms of spring rate. These little guy springs may be even a tad stiffer when compressed like that. I'm not sure. I'm gonna experiment, play around. I may run these on the Treal shocks on the Bronco, or I might just stick with the Treal springs. I'm not really sure. We'll have to figure that out once I get the truck all back together. However, the IR60 here with the little guy springs, even if there was no performance gain at all, it just looks so good. It looks so good. It sits better, it looks better. I'm really happy about getting rid of the red. I didn't think it worked well with this setup. I think it looks so much cleaner now. And I think it's gonna perform much, much better on the rocks. So enough talking about it. We've done plenty of stuff to this truck since we were last out on the rocks. Let's get out there and see how it performs.
Into the bone, there's darkness in your soul. You're cold, cold heart, you're cold, cold heart, yeah. Haunt me like a ghost that won't leave me alone. You're cold, cold heart, you're cold, cold heart, yeah.
And we're back. It is the last day of the year. We have some sun, finally. It's a little chilly, but it's pretty nice out here. But we do have one problem. Yeah. So, water level is considerably higher than it was previously. So we are limited on lines, for sure. We do have a couple over here that I'm gonna hit, and a couple over here that I like, but overall, it's very wet. So this is the other side that I usually like to hit, and you can see that's pretty well gone. Over there on the other side is covered up, so we're short on territory. There's a couple of good lines here, there's a couple of good lines over there. There's maybe one or two good lines over here. Time to bust out the little IR60 build and see how much better those little guy shocks have made it. All right, so we're already over here, so I figured let's hit this little section first and see what it can do. I love these shocks. I really love them. They sit the truck exactly where I wanted it. They seem to be really high quality. They work great. Let's see how we handle this big drop here. Come on. Light work. Light work. All right. Oh, struggling for grip. Not enough grip. Not enough grip. Let's see if we can start from there. It's just... there we go. That'll work. Oh man, it just looks so good. It looks so good. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh no. Falling down into this hole. Sketchy. Alright, so far, I gotta say, I'm not super impressed with these tires. It is a little bit wet and slick out here. And I think the inserts, the suspension, and the overdrive have definitely helped a lot. A lot, for sure. I mean, it's way more capable now. But I can definitely tell at this point that I'm struggling for grip. That's kind of holding me back. Hey, that's not bad though. Not bad. Let's see if I can get off my bumper now. There we go. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so we should probably try to clean some of this stuff off of the rock before we hit it though. But I do like this line. I just discovered this. This is kind of a cool little line right here, so I'm gonna try to hit this and see how that goes. It's real steep right here. Come on. Come on. Yeah, so traction at this point is definitely my biggest issue. I'm not a huge fan of these King Trekker tires. They look really good, but they're not doing it for me. Just out here for scouting for lines, and look what I find. Somebody made a little sphinx, a mud kitten? I don't know. That's awesome.
Everybody's too blind to see.
Goes into the bone. There's darkness in your soul. You're cold, cold heart. You're cold, cold heart. Yeah, haunt me like a ghost that won't leave me alone. You're cold, cold heart. You're cold, cold heart. Yeah.
Everything I do for you. Everything I want for you. Everything I do for you. Everything I want for you. Everything I do for you.